ask anybody's question but yours. You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
Friends, remember that the more things change, the more things stay the same. And that means you get an all-chalk Final Four this year in San Antonio.
Oh, I didn't see how the last one finished. So
yes, Auburn did end up winning. So for only the second time in NCAA tournament history, the Final Four will be represented by all 1 seeds.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think the first time since the last time they were in San Antonio.
Potentially, if that 2018 tournament was the last time that we had all 1 seeds in the tournament, with the Kansas and Memphis final with the Derrick Rose Memorial Chalmers battle, and clearly the battle for best point guard of the early 2010s in the NBA. Welcome, everyone, to the Disloyal Idiots podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network. Christian Guzman here, joined by Steve Haller. Andy Predaker is not with us because he has decided to leave the country for some reason.
I can think of a lot of reasons, but that's not...
Same. I know him.
So the person you are listening to, if you're listening on your podcast platform of your choice, is a good friend of ours and a friend of the streams. Mike Held is joining us. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. And
of course.
We're talking about some Syracuse athletics.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
As you can see, Steve and Mike are wearing their customary Yankees hat. I have decided to forego, but wearing mine in spirit for this podcast as we celebrate the launch of torpedo bats this year in the MLB.
I think the Yankees just hit another home run.
Yeah,
probably.
We're in for the juice bat era now. Minor first fact check of the day: the 2018 San Antonio Alamo Dome Final Four was the wonderful Loyola Chicago year. So
okay,
let's go.
That was the opposite.
Oh yeah, that was the UMBC year, so that couldn't have been it.
So yep, it's yeah, wow, I forgot about that.
So is that the town where Big Hero 6 was held in? You remember Big Hero 6, the Disney movie?
It's a Marvel movie.
Oh, it is a Marvel movie.
I think technically
it is technically, yeah. So
shout out to San Tokyo or whatever that town was also, which is the town name that Steve tried to come up with.
Oh yeah. So speaking of Marvel things, I'm just about, if I'm dead today, it's because I just spent 2 days at Syracuse Collectors Con, hawking a table for my other podcast, and also pushing my good friend and co-host books. So I'm running on complete fumes right now. So this should be a fun one.
And also after, psychoanalyzing what every single After Edition meant for Doomsday.
Yeah, if you want to check out the Multiverse Report, we just put out a 20-something minute episode basically recapping that and how...
Was it just reading names? Yeah. For 27 straight minutes?
It was 20 minutes, and we paused for at least 3 minutes in between every name we read just to stretch it. So, no, we both kind of agreed that, that was a really dumb way to do it, so...
Yeah.
So you did it in what, 20 minutes? You said?
Yeah.
Not.
We should have
not 6 hours.
Yeah. I was gonna say you didn't do that over 5.5 hours.
Yeah, and then we just showed up at the end and winked into the camera. So
I will say, as somebody working a 9 to 5 while that was going on, that was really nice content to have because they would play a little music cue right before something was going to happen.
Right.
It was the perfect little distraction at work.
Yep. Absolutely.
You guys know that the tomato method or the apple method in Japanese cultures, because most of their timers are like apples or tomato shape, and every time it goes off, you're supposed to take 5 minutes at the end of every hour just to rest and decompose in order to stay focused on your task. That was like that Marvel live stream. You had the perfect time to distract yourself from work for just a couple of minutes before you're moving back on.
Yeah, I should have taken advantage of that. Instead, I just waited until Pregler texted me and was like, "Hey, this is happening." I was like, "All right, cool. Another one down."
Another one who's not Chris Evans.
Right.
Exactly. At this point, you're surprised that probably J.J. Starling and Donnie Freeman didn't enter the transfer portal to join the Avengers Doomsday cast.
I was going to say, I was surprised they didn't show up on the list, as they were the only... They're now currently, I believe, they're the only 2 members of Syracuse basketball officially, right?
The only 2 confirmed members of Syracuse basketball, which is where we'll start our podcast, as the men's basketball transfer portal is wide open. If you haven't figured that out by now, because everybody from every team is in that program. The only two Orange players who are confirmed to be back from this year that haven't graduated are JJ Starling and Donnie Freeman. Every single underclassman is into the transfer portal, apart from Peter Mistorovich, who was initially announced to be returning, but that report was retracted, and his status is still yet to be declared on whether he is entering or not in the transfer portal.
Yeah, so while we've got the early Facebook stage of it's complicated with Peter, I believe we have 2 confirmed roster spots and 4 incoming freshmen, and that's our entire team.
There is a commit. Are we counting the committed transfer or no?
We are indeed going to count the committed transfer, not officially reported by Syracuse. The committed transfer that Mike is referring to is UCLA power forward William Kyle, I believe is the full name. Indeed, William Kyle transferred from UCLA. Only spent 1 year with the Bruins. He was previously with South Dakota State, where he won League Defensive Player of the Year and a all-league first-team player in his final year with South Dakota State before he transferred to UCLA.
Yeah, this is not to be confused with Buffalo Bills defensive tackle Kyle Williams, which is what my brain immediately went to when I saw him sign. I'm like, oh no, that's definitely not a giant redheaded dude. So yeah, that's I think we have a, I don't know, where do we think he's going to fit into this squad?
So he's listed as a center, which I find peculiar. He's 6'9", which that's not a center in the ACC.
Unless you're Lindsay Onowaku, you're not going to be playing center at 6'9".
He is a shot blocker and had a pretty solid shot block rate. I don't remember what it was because the number I saw seemed way wrong. I saw a number that was like 14%. I'm like, that doesn't feel possible. But he's a solid shot blocker. The bigger issue as a center, he is atrocious from the free throw line.
So he'll fit in right. He'll fit right in with Syracuse.
He's the perfect Syracuse center in any regard. That he shoots about, I think it was 38% from the line.
Wow, when you're almost approaching the actual Mendoza line from the free throw stripe,
right?
You got problems here.
So
the other problem that I foresee with Kyle, which may push him out of the lineup if better options present themselves for Syracuse, is that at 6'9" he is only at 230.
Yeah, he's a twig.
Huh. So yeah, he fits in with most, Syracuse centers.
Yeah, fits in with most Syracuse archetypes. Yes.
Yeah. Yep, that's great.
I think he is a good commitment, but if he's the guy you're bringing in, boy, does this suck.
Yes, you would hope that they're bringing in Syracuse is bringing in other people in terms to battle for the front court spot that most likely is going to be shared by Donnie Freeman and Sadiq White from everything we can see.
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't really need a 17th power forward coming in. I think that was didn't we have a problem with roster construction this year?
And every year since
now
2016,
like we're having another problem with roster construction next year.
Well, again, the idea is that Alex Klein has his guys, and again, it's only been the first week of the portal. Players can still enter the portal for nearly another month.
I think
the
it's
portal,
3 weeks. Yeah, it's the 21st.
It's the 22nd. The portal closes on the 22nd of April, and so you've got to consider that also. You still have another 12 teams who have just exited the NCAA tournament, and the other postseason tournaments in the NIT and CBI. Those teams are also going to have players that are going to be entering the portal. So,
and I think realistic. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's still a lot of talent to still come into the portal, and there's still a lot of time to court players in the portal because that April 22nd deadline date is only the deadline for players entering the portal. You can still sign players out of the portal past that deadline.
Right. And I think the players playing are the guys you're going to want to see. I mean, no offense to the small market guys who we brought in the past, but I think maybe the talent level wasn't quite there to make the jump from the CAA immediately to the ACC for certain ones of them.
Fair enough. And I mean, also random, who until Christian said that even remembered the CBI was still a thing?
There's like another tournament too this year. There's that one that Fox is running.
Yeah, the CIT or something like that.
The College Basketball Crown or something like that.
Yeah, that one's for like the high mid majors that didn't make it, and like some like and there are like some under 500 teams I think in that tournament as well.
Huh? That's that thing in Vegas.
Some mid majors and also Georgetown basketball.
Huh. Bravo, sir.
Round of applause.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to give them credit. This is a decent tournament. There's some actually okay programs in here. Georgetown, Nebraska, Arizona State, USC, Colorado, Villanova. Also, maybe DePaul? Question mark.
You don't bring up
DePaul.
Noted powerhouse DePaul.
And also, speaking of the transfer portal, a guy playing who I think Syracuse is going to 100% get is playing in this tournament because he's playing at George Washington. That's Trey Autry.
Oh, yes, Trey Autry, a double-digit scorer with George Washington, sharing in last name with notable Syracuse head coach Red Autry.
Yeah, sharing in not only last name, but perhaps some DNA as well.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's kind of the inevitable, similar to Fran Brown's son coming in. I would not be stunned if that one happens.
Yeah, no, he that wouldn't surprise me, and it also, like, much like Fran Brown Jr., went away, actually proved themselves and is coming back versus like come in and ride the nepotism train. It's like, okay, I guess Fran Jr. was very much in demand in the portal, and Trey put up some numbers, so
yeah,
why not? Can't hurt.
I think the thing about this tournament, if I remember correctly, is that it's all schools that Fox has the rights to.
That seems like it, definitely.
Because I think that's what they're really trying to do with this, is promote their own product.
Yeah, because again, it's a lot of Big 12 programs and Big East programs there, which Fox has the rights to.
Yes. Yeah, no ACC teams.
Yeah, no SEC teams are going in there, mainly because there weren't any SEC teams to join them to begin with.
That starts Monday through April 6th. Okay.
That's a quick tournament then.
Well, that's because I'll be in Vegas the weekend after, and I was like, oh, if I'm going to be out there,
Sure.
the Tulane Wave are playing, and I would have brought my Wavy shirt from home field, but alas, they are. Oh, there you go.
Got mine on, baby.
Nice. I'm wearing the joggers, but you're not seeing me stand up. Yeah, no, Nova, Utah, USC, UCF, Oregon.
It's a decent tournament.
Like, it's definitely notable.
It's notable name brand wise, but quality of basketball program leaves a lot to be desired.
Well, I mean,
I think at least in terms of product air quality, it seems like it's maybe better than the NIT is.
Well, remember that the NCAA really changed the NIT rules to make it really, really crappy.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason why I remember the CBI is because there was a really funny situation this year where a team had accepted both a CBI and then an NIT invite.
Can they do that?
No. So that caused a lot of confusion, and that was UC Riverside, who at one point was announced for both the CBI and NIT brackets on I believe it was Sunday or Monday night, which definitely, as you know, caused a lot of confusion.
I attended the CBI final one year. There's my fun fact.
That's your claim to fame.
Yep, I went. The CBI is a 3-game. At least it was. I don't know if it still is. It was a best of 3 for the final.
Oh boy!
Which was just a way to add in more. And Siena College made it, and I went when Siena played in the CBI final, and they beat Fresno State in game 3 to win the final that year.
That's awesome.
Strange stuff.
Oh, weird college basketball tournaments. Well, for the college basketball crown, I will be rooting for the Fighting Kurt Wagners because, well, DePaul's mascot totally looks like Nightcrawler, and I'm going to run with that.
This year's CBI was indeed won by Illinois State over Cleveland State.
Go Vikes. I think. I'll take. Ooh, this is talking to. I'll get that website started talking. I'll take to win the college basketball crown.
What was that you put up there?
I'll take Tulane to win the college basketball crown.
Yeah, that'll make Steve happy there.
Hey, Wavy works too. official other team for many years of the Troy Nunes is an Absolute podcast. So I guess our spiritual predecessor. So yeah, might as well.
They're limiting replay in that tournament.
That's
limiting replay in the last 2 minutes. That's great.
interesting. Yes. I hope it's by limiting replay. I hope it's like the way that I would like replay limited, which is you get 2 minutes, and if you can't make a decision by then, the call on the court stands.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
And that's the way
I
it
feel
should
like 2
be.
minutes is even long.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the way it should be across all sports.
Yeah,
Is
at all
you
levels.
you got a maximum of 2 minutes, and if you can't make a decision by then, it's too close for you to.
I also
make a
don't think they shouldn't be allowed to zoom in. That's my real hot take when it comes to any instant replay stuff. Is that if you can't see it from like the camera angles that you're given, you shouldn't have to go into the nano scale zoom in. This is more notable in football rather than basketball, but you shouldn't be having to zoom in all the way. If you can't see it from the camera, then it's clearly close. So
you wouldn't have seen it with your eyes.
Right.
You make the call. So if you don't make the call, you don't make the call.
So
I know my college basketball crown champion pick is going to be Boise State because they should probably have made the NCAA tournament.
Probably.
So all of us are going with very non-conventional options. I like it.
And this is what happens when Syracuse doesn't make the NCAA tournament.
We talk about stupid things like this. Yes.
Yes. Because as you just kind of figured out, Syracuse really in its market right now only has 3 players on its roster. You have the 2 confirmed in JJ and Donnie. Well, you could say 6 because you have the 2 confirmed in JJ and Wanting. You have in Donnie. You have the 4 freshmen that are coming in, and
the transfer,
and then the transfer and William Kyle, who is the unconfirmed player. And so we talked a bit about this last week, Steve, and one of the reasons why I am enjoying that we have Mike on for the podcast this week is that he can provide a bit more of a fan view of what the Syracuse fan base is like, because Steve and I are sickos. Not to say that Mike isn't a sicko, but he is. Yeah, not to say Mike isn't a sicko, but Steve and I are sickos for different reasons, as in that we consume this content way more than the normal Syracuse fan should. So Steve brought up roster construction. When we see roster construction coming up for Syracuse with what Syracuse should be looking for in the portal, Mike, what do you think Syracuse should be looking for in the portal?
I think it's pretty obvious that there's two spots. You need a point guard, you need a center. That's what was the main thing out, and especially when you look at the construction of what's coming in, that was mentioned earlier, basically have 4 wings coming in, which that makes it tough to find places to put all those wings. Famously, you really only need 2 of those. JJ's going to be at the 2, and then you're going to have to kind of figure out the 5 and the 1 there, because JJ's.
I guess that's the thing, is we hope JJ's at the 2.
Yeah, right. You don't want JJ at the 1 again, and then it's a matter of what can you find to fill in there. Is it Trey Autry, who I don't want him to be starting at the point next year, but he could be. Is your big splash going at the center? You're going after Quincy Ballard for the 3rd time.
Oh my God, yeah, that's so true.
Is maybe 3rd time's a charm with him, that he's the local kid coming home, or there's other options out there at the point. And like we said earlier, there's still a lot to be entered into, but it's the point guard and it's the center. And Syracuse has not had a good center since
Rakeem Christmas?
Rack. Yeah, right. Because who came? I mean, Chukwu was pretty good. Pascal Chukwu was fine.
Yeah, there's ups and downs.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they haven't had a really great center since Rakeem, especially Rakeem's senior year, which was the suspension year. So it's been a struggle for 10 years, because that was my senior year. So it's been a struggle for that long. So
yeah, dare I say if Ballard came, that would be quite the shocker. But
I agree, but he's in the portal and he knows the league. He's shown he can play in the ACC.
There's a couple Syracuse natives in the portal, I believe, at this point, right? Well, I remember this is the as we were talking before the pod, look up random Mike Waters articles, because Mike's usually on spot on all this. But I could have sworn I saw there were a couple other Syracuse natives that were bouncing around. But yeah, Quincy's definitely the biggest of the gets physically. was.
And if you're looking at the point, the one everyone's talking about is Jakari White out of North Dakota State.
Yep.
When doing my research for him, I wrote down his name and that he plays at North Dakota State, and then I wrote 2 words under that, which is dream on. Syracuse ain't getting him.
No. There's plenty of reasons, including many dollar signs, that are not going to bring him to Syracuse.
Correct. Which is why I think Ballard, there's a reach, but there's a shot. We'll see. So,
how would you guys feel being Syracuse fans if the starting backcourt next year is JJ Starring and Kyan Anthony?
I'm not happy.
No, I'm not. Now the question is, if that's out of Kyan playing himself into a spot, and JJ moving to necessity, that's great. That would be fine.
Yeah, it's the context.
If it's because it's an oh shit, we need somebody to do this, and this is our only option, that's a very different question.
Yeah, if we're coming to that conclusion on May 15th that that's what the lineup's going to be, this is bad. If we're coming to that conclusion on October 15th, that's different.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't love it.
How about you?
I see. It's going to be tough because it does depend on how much Kyan shows up, and if he shows to be the scorer that he can potentially be, then sure, let's put him in. But at the same time, I do feel like it's going to be tough for Syracuse as well, because there is the hidden factor of, hey, let's put Kyan Anthony in the starting lineup. And guess what? We're going to get a lot of eyes on that because Kyan Anthony is in the starting lineup. The prodigal son of the prodigal son has returned.
Yeah, but at the same time, if that's why we're doing it, it's like, meh.
Is it the basketball decision? No, like you guys said, I feel like Syracuse should get a point guard and have JJ play the off-ball 2 position, because that's where he did his best work, especially when Judah Mintz was with Syracuse.
Hey, remember that?
How was that only like 2.5 years ago?
That was 2 years and like 7 decades at the same time.
I know.
You know who's a point guard from that team who's probably going to enter the portal and not join Syracuse?
Who?
It's not Kadari Richmond, right?
Well, no, he's out of eligibility.
He's on his 15th year of eligibility, yes. I'm sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's Quadir Copeland, who was probably going to join another ACC program. If I had my betting eyes on.
I mean, that would be great if he came back, though.
No, but again, we know where Quadir's going.
Am I allowed to spit a really hot take about him what I've always heard about him leaving, that it was academics? That's what I've always heard about him, was that he was essentially told, like, oh, you're not going to be eligible to play next season.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the strong rumor around. I think.
So, and if he ends up at a certain new Will Wade school, we'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm not one to judge what the academics are like between Syracuse, NC State, and McNeese State. Let's put it that way.
Same.
And of course, there was nothing confirmed about that. So.
Yeah, no, nothing. It's like I said, that's all what I've heard. So
yeah, I couldn't. I
have no backup for that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Shout out to Syracuse fan boards.
Yeah, exactly. So, see, you guys said you're a sicko. You're just a different type of sicko.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's I don't know. I was thinking of a good segue and I failed miserably at it.
I mean, a good segue is to usually talk about, at this point, our favorite friends at homefieldapparel.com. You can see that Mike Held is wearing one of their favorite t-shirts, so the Q Script t-shirt. Steve is wearing the joggers. Of course, you will not see Steve wearing the joggers. I own one of their great Syracuse Bomber jackets. And you can go to homefieldapparel.com right now and use the code NUNES24, that's NUNES24, at checkout. And you'll get 15% off your very first order at homefieldapparel.com. Right in time for the start of their Indy 500 sales once again, with that race coming up.
Oh, yeah. There is that thing.
That is something coming up.
Yeah.
So go to homefieldapparel.com and use the code NUNES.
Oh.
Yeah. And use the code NUNES24 NUNES24 at checkout, and you'll get 15% off your very first order at homefieldapparel.com.
And we also are just past opening day, which for the first time in history, my son on opening day said, "Dad, can we watch the Yankees game?" And I had a proud dad moment. And then was late to because of the stupidity in the ninth inning of that game. Was late to it. I was going to because I was like, oh, it'll be a 1-2-3 inning like the last 4 or 5 that we've. Oh shit, they loaded the bases. All right, great.
Yep.
Nothing like loading the bases with nobody out.
Indeed.
And then somehow
it's called excitement.
Right. Yeah, we'll go with that, Mike. But similarly to that, there will be AAA baseball kicking off in the local Syracuse area. And I think someone on the pod may or may not have a tie-in that he needs to add to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. So, as mentioned, I'm Mike. I run a bar trivia company in Syracuse, and we are running, it's called Orange Trivia Company. We are running a trivia night with the Syracuse Mets. This is the 3rd year in a row we are doing it. It is a great time. This year, it is going to be on Tuesday, the 29th of April, down in the Metropolitan Club out in right field out there. Goes on during the game. It starts right around first pitch. Last year, we actually had to stop during the first round for the national anthem. So it does start right on time. So it is $28.50 to play. That is per person. You are allowed to have up to 6 people on your team. That does include a ticket to the game and a ticket to the Met Club to play trivia. The winning team for that night will go home with a free night in a luxury suite for later on in the season, with a food and beverage package. Until you get on Jeopardy, this is going to be the best prize that you win at a trivia night. I assure you that in terms of value, it's roughly a $1,600 value. It is a great time. We have a really we've had about 120 people each of the last 2. It's very competitive. The same team has won both. No, that's not true. We have one very good trivia player who I can tell you is very excited that he thinks he's going to win back-to-back times this year. So come out if you can. $28.50. More info at Orange Trivia on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. And the Mets will have more info. You can also just Google Syracuse Mets Trivia Night, and that will come up.
Nice. And Christian, what do you think? Should you and I get one and then have the Disloyal Idiots podcast live broadcast from the Mets
from the trivia game?
Yeah,
we might have to. We might also have to drag the kid that's in another country right now with us to help buoy our team.
Oh, the important thing to note is that this is not a sports trivia night or a Syracuse trivia night. This is just a regular, general knowledge trivia night. So if you're not good at sports trivia, if you're not good at Syracuse trivia, you're all good.
I'm good at stupid knowledge, so
then you're in luck.
So Steve will be carrying our supposed Disloyal Idiots team, and also for the sickos out there who are of the ilk mind of this as well. That's one of the days that the Yankees AAA team, the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, are in town to play the Syracuse Mets.
So I did bring a trivia question for you guys.
Oh, I'm very excited.
A very silly trivia question. This is Syracuse trivia. So, which number is greater? Jim Boeheim's total wins per the NCAA.
Okay.
Or the total of every coach in Syracuse men's lacrosse history and the win totals of the following football coaches: Dino Babers, Fran Brown, Scott Schaefer, and Greg Robinson. So those totals are per the NCAA because that is relevant here.
So you would think that the lacrosse coach, you would think the lacrosse coaches would buoy it, but there were quite a few good lacrosse wins as seasons as well that were stripped away from the lacrosse team due to the scandal of 1990 and the lost trophy.
I'm going to give you a hint here. They didn't lose wins for those years.
Right.
They only lost the title.
Interesting. So that trophy is still somewhere, probably with Roy Simmons somewhere. Interesting. Now, you have to consider also for the head coaches that Mike mentioned. Apart from Fran Brown, the records are less than gleaming for all head coaches of the football program named.
They are, but you have there's not even a ton of volume. We don't get negative wins for Robinson, right?
No, actually, Robinson did include a couple, not many.
Okay.
The key and operative word there being a couple.
Because he had sub 10 in his entire tenure, so
he had 10 and a number were stripped.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Boeheim because I think the number that Mike has told us doesn't even reach 1,000 for the other sum of head coaches for the entirety of the men's lacrosse program and the football coaches that Mike named.
I would go with the same, even with Boeheim's stripped wins, that he would take it.
So these numbers are per Wikipedia because that's what we're using. Jim Boeheim, 1,115 wins. Syracuse Lacrosse, 948. Dino Babers, 41. Scott Schaefer, 14. Fran Brown, 10. Greg Robinson, 5, for a total of 1,018.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I know. The men's lacrosse program hasn't reached 1,000 yet. They're very close, like Mike said, but not quite yet.
But yeah, if you didn't include Greg Robinson, Boeheim has it. With Greg Robinson's 5 total wins in there, he really gets the bump. So pushes him over the edge.
Oh,
Steve's
God.
favorite football coach.
Yeah, but I'm the only one that was on campus for that.
Gerg.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
That was an era.
Steve loves snowballs that catch on fire.
The little engine that could.
Somebody gave my son that, and I had to hide it around the house so he never asked me to read it. And I wish I was kidding. I was scarred by that.
Have you at least read your son How to Grow an Orange?
No, but I have read it multiple times. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, I have to read that one too.
I think I have an e-reader format.
Nice. Shout out to friend and creator of New Tradition, Sean Keeley. You know what is a snowball that is no longer catching on fire?
No.
NCAA spring practices.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that got canned.
That unfortunately did get canned.
I think it's a snowball, though. The momentum's there.
The snowball is indeed there, and I feel like this is something that should get allowed for the next offseason at the very, very least.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Syracuse and Colorado, even though they did submit paperwork to the NCAA to get a waiver filed for that, to allow a joint practice, unfortunately, Friday afternoon, that waiver was denied for a number of reasons. One of them due to the timing of the waiver, also essentially because that Syracuse and Colorado would basically be the only teams being allowed this joint practice, that it would allow a competitive advantage for both programs and of the like. So unfortunately, no spring practice for Syracuse football and Colorado together. And I know all three of us would have definitely loved to see that.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Now that, I guess that does pose, though, like, next year, how many different schools are going to put in for this? Because it seems like it seems like a good concept that a lot of schools will like for exposure.
If you take the NCAA at face, which is a difficult concept, I understand. Yeah. But if you take the NCAA at face, they really didn't say no. They said not now.
Right.
Their decision almost made it sound like, had they applied for this a month and a half ago, that maybe it would have been different.
Right.
But because of the timing of it, and again, you're taking it at face. They're not saying no outright. And I think next year, this is almost certainly going to be
somebody will want to do it
widespread, and you can hope maybe for eyeball purposes that Fran and Prime stay buddy and they're the partners again next year.
Yeah. Now the difference, I guess, because this almost was like a pendulum swing reaction to all these schools canceling their spring games.
Yes.
So I guess the question will be, do they continue? Do those programs that canceled their spring games or did not televise their spring games and are doing things closed, is this something that will move a needle for them to swing back the other direction, and or will that change the NCAA's decision if they think that this may cause more of those programs to kind of come back into the limelight? because the ones that wanted to cancel seem to be a lot of the high profile ones that the NCAA wants to make money off of.
Right.
So here's the thing. I don't think that's going to change whether a program puts on a spring game or not. I think if Syracuse and Colorado were going to hold this type of practice between this type of joint practice between two programs, that there wouldn't be any televised scrimmages. I don't think at all, because most of those are and like if you look at the NFL, most of those scrimmages, at least early on, are not televised, and the only reason why teams are holding joint scrimmages most of the time is because they're holding a preseason football game later that week together.
Yeah.
So I do not think that, like for example, let's say Nebraska finds a spring football program to join alongside them and hold some joint practices. I don't think Nebraska is still going to hold a spring football game.
No, but the thing is, would the NCAA push to make that joint, that joint scrimmage at the end? That's something that they could monetize and put eyeballs on.
100%.
And call me a cynic, but when the NCAA makes a decision, 98% of the time it's due to not the student athlete, because as a former NCAA student athlete, they don't give a flying shit about the student athlete. The dollar signs that could come from TV deals based on it, even ancillarily based on Syracuse and Colorado going and playing, or Bama and Georgia scheduling something, right, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that, it's an extra game for them to see and an extra way to showcase their wares.
But you're telling me the UFL is not a great way for spring football to make money?
It's a way.
It's a way.
Good is it's a term also. But yeah, I mean, how many times have we tried spring football leagues at this point, and all of them seem to flop directly on their face?
Yes.
Yeah. But we've got The Rock this time.
I think it's interesting. I wish it happened for a lot of reasons. I think the eyeballs on the program would have been great because there's not really a hotter program in terms of eyeballs than Colorado. Yeah. But I think reading both Prime and Fran's comments about it, how they really wanted to make this much more than just like a joint practice, but really kind of like a way to grow the team. The big one I kept reading about was that they wanted to do these personal financial seminars, which I think is important and would have been a really great push. And I hope the university is pushing to do that on their own because it's important too. But I think that's what you're going to see kind of the loss here. And I do hope it happens because I think it makes a lot of sense for everybody that, it's not going to replace the spring game. I think the schools that still want to do a spring game are going to do a spring game. I think the spring game is important for the local fans too. I enjoy going to the spring game because it's a good way to get out and a good way to see what's going on. But I think these types of things are really good, especially as, the sport kind of becomes smaller and smaller. So
I think this is also a good point to talk to Mike about what is actually going to happen with the Syracuse spring game this year, because it is going to be at the JMA Wireless Dome.
Yeah,
probably won't be as traditional as we've seen some spring games before, but it's only back at the Dome because of the cancellation of the Billy Joel concert dates. This was supposed to be held at the SU Soccer Stadium. In a much more, you could definitely say, much more intimate sense of the fan experience for Syracuse football. Mike, if what was supposed to happen and the Syracuse spring football game was going to be at the SU Soccer Stadium, how would have felt as a fan?
I was really looking forward to it at the soccer stadium. I think in a way it's kind of a missed opportunity because the dome is great when there's 55,000 people there or whatever the capacity is, 45 now. When the dome is empty, the dome is a cave, and the spring game doesn't draw. I like going, but it doesn't draw well. Last year it did, but it's a tough draw. And I think having it outside, you're running the risk of the weather, but I think having it outside was something different and something exciting and interesting that I was looking forward to doing. I'll still probably go in the dome, but we'll see. I'm more upset that Billy Joel canceled personally, but that's okay. I think the spring game is interesting and a good concept. that no one cares about in the way. Like, no one really knows what they should care about in the spring game, I guess is the best way. Because the hardcore fans don't care because your freshmen aren't really in yet. Some of them are, but not a ton. Your more casual fans aren't going to this thing because, it's in the spring. And we all read the comment section about how there's a million things to do in the fall. There's just as many things to do in the spring.
Yeah.
There's no raking leaves, but there's raking your lawn. So, I wish it was outside, I think is kind of a lot of what this comes down to.
It would have been a cool experience. And that stadium in itself is a nice, intimate, 2,000 plus people can, get a solid seat there.
I've said they should use it more. I have long said that I think that should be the home of SU women's lacrosse. They could fill that place up every game.
Yeah.
I think that would be terrific. I understand why they don't, but I think it would be great. It would give them also their own place to be, and not have to move to CNS for a game every year. So I think they need to utilize that facility more, frankly.
Right. I mean, in all honesty, as dumb as it sounds, like add another set of bleachers on the other side and just use it for
stuff like that.
Even for the men's lacrosse.
Make the men play up there every now and then.
Yeah. You can put in a couple extra, their game against St. Mary's School for the Blind is not going to draw.
I'm not saying put Notre Dame or Duke there, but I'm saying, maybe when you're playing, your Binghamton game every year.
Right.
Let it be outside.
Manhattan is not going to be dome worthy per se. Like, utilize what you have, and I don't know.
But the 18-2 final score against Manhattan wasn't going to draw fans to the dome.
Well, I know my son would be excited about just watching the sheer number of goals go in, but beyond that, nah, probably not.
I did also in my notes write down a lacrosse take, and that lacrosse take is that Hopkins needs to start winning more games.
That's a take that's generally true of Hopkins most years.
Years, yeah, but when Hopkins right now is maybe looking like the best win on your schedule, you want Hopkins to win more games.
This is the problem for Syracuse lacrosse. There's not much to talk about football right now anyway, past the Dion and Fran.
There's no starting quarterback yet.
There's no starting quarterback. Yeah, soon, hopefully TM. Because it is a good time to move on to lacrosse. It is lacrosse season anyway. And like Mike said, the best win on Syracuse's resume is Hopkins, because as it turns out, Virginia this year is the worst team in the ACC, which is shocking because we thought it was going to be UNC, and UNC then decided, no, we actually are going to be the best team in the ACC this year.
Maybe the country.
Crazy.
Nope, definitely not the country.
They just lost Army.
Yeah, they did just lose. That's right.
They're definitely not the best team in the country. That belongs to my Cornell Big Red. Let's go Cornell.
That's another team.
Mm-hmm. Again, personal bias.
The ACC is just weird looking this year.
Syracuse, obviously, by benefit of being in the ACC, has a chance to get that signature win to be better than Hopkins with a truly terrible stretch of brutal stretch remaining on the calendar.
Like Steve and I have gone through this, and for those who don't know, this is a murderer's gauntlet of a schedule to end the year, because yes, you've just played Virginia. You get a week at the very least. You don't have any short weeks left for Syracuse. Every time they're going to be playing on a Saturday. But first is this next upcoming weekend, they take on the reigning back-to-back national champions in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
After that,
maybe
it's at least at home. Yeah,
right.
I'll be there.
It is at home. I'll also be there as well, working in a behind-the-scenes fashion before Syracuse travels down to Long Island to play Cornell,
which still doesn't make sense. I'm going to say it every week. It still doesn't make sense.
Is it a recruiting thing, or is it just?
I think it partially is. This is actually not new for Cornell, because Cornell played in a similar game last year against Notre Dame on Long Island. That game was only decided by one goal.
I don't think it's new for Syracuse either. I think we played Virginia down there a couple of years ago, maybe.
Perhaps once. I remember. If you also remember last year, Syracuse played Duke in Atlanta.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's also strange.
But
do we just do all neutral sites for all sports in Atlanta?
probably. I mean,
We're playing Tennessee there next year.
exactly.
Like, what the hell?
So Cornell in Long Island. Personal biases here. I know who I'm picking in that game, and then you go to Koskinen in Durham and play Duke before you end the season against UNC. And then, unfortunately, that's probably the best offense you're going to face in UNC. And then after the UNC game, you go down to North Carolina to play in the ACC tournament.
To probably play UNC again.
Probably.
I think Syracuse would love. I think I'd be ecstatic if they went 1-3 in this stretch.
Yeah.
The past few years, they have not really pulled off a game that they shouldn't have per se, and you could argue that really all 4 of these they should not win. And if Syracuse finds a way to win one of these, I am happy.
Now, does one of these put them into the tournament?
I think so.
With the sheer small amount of at-larges.
I think so.
It's so tough.
I think especially if they beat Cornell, I think yes, 100%.
It's so tough. I think you could potentially say that about Cornell again. Number 1 in the team in the nation, just absolutely decimated Penn this week to avenge their Ivy League tournament loss from last year. But then it's really going to depend on how the rest of the Ivy and the Big Ten shake out. I mean, Syracuse is going to need a lot of help from those teams at the top of the Ivy and Big Ten starting to fall off. And so a win over Cornell would help in that regard. But then again, I think you probably need 2 wins to at least be calm about an at-large bid. I don't think 1 gets it done, even against the right opponent.
2 between this stretch and the ACC tournament.
No, 2 between this and the end of the regular season.
You think they need to go 2-2 and?
I think they need to go 2-2, and probably, honestly, go 2-2 and win a game in the ACC tournament.
Okay.
I think that's a guarantee. If they,
yes,
we'll say in their next 5, if they go 3-2.
Because even if you win 1 game in the ACC tournament, let's say if Syracuse goes 1-3 in the regular season and wins 1 game in the ACC tournament, I still don't think that's a guarantee. And that goes to the same for if Syracuse goes 2-2 in the regular season in those last 4 games, but then doesn't win their first game in the ACC tournament. I still think it's a big toss-up for Syracuse.
I mean, and your most likely win in that stretch is Duke.
It is for some reason it's Duke. I wouldn't say for some reason, but somehow it's Duke.
I almost say it's this weekend.
Yeah,
home.
It could be this weekend.
At the home crowd. You're playing. Obviously, yesterday got a bit dicey, but that Colgate win might go down as their best win of the season if Hopkins keeps Hopkinsing. That Colgate win was a good win, and Colgate's decent. They're playing well right now. I mean, for what it's worth, they are playing pretty well. After that loss to Harvard, they've looked pretty decent in most of their games. You're playing well. I think Notre Dame is the most winnable game out there. Duke's on the road, and Duke is a tough place to play.
This is a Notre Dame team that just dropped Duke by 7.
Yep, sure is.
What I will say for Syracuse is on that schedule, out of the 4 teams we mentioned, Notre Dame, Cornell, Duke, and Carolina, you have the second best offense on that schedule. The first one belongs to Cornell. It's how well does your defense hold up?
Yeah.
The first one just belongs to CJ Kirst.
Yes.
The rest of the team benefits from that.
I mean, Kirst only had 2 goals and 3 assists this weekend.
Yeah, that's an only.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Kirst is quickly closing in on Peyton Cormier's NCAA all-time career record of 224 goals. He has 205 right now.
Jesus. How?
Yeah.
So do we? Do they award him the Tuarton before the tournament? Like,
yes.
Do they just hand it to him like before the season closes, or what? At this point,
yes.
It's insane.
That would be good for me.
55 points already.
Yeah, he's so good. So good.
Unbelievable.
And then again, it's going.
Goldstein has 40 points because he just keeps passing him the ball.
Exactly. Well, again, because I am of the ilk. The game last week before this week's game against Penn, Cornell went to Yale, and granted, Yale only has one win on the season now too.
Yeah.
But Kirst had 9 goals and an assist in that game, which is so casual to say for CJ Kirst. But yes, he had 9 goals and an assist in that game, and Goldstein had 2 goals and 8 assists.
Right. Well, on the flip side, though, we talk about Kirst with 55. Spallina's got 54 points on the season already.
Yes, this is true. This is indeed true.
He's putting the ball in the back of the net, or even more importantly, facilitating. He's got 32 assists on the year already.
Yeah, and it was really funny to see Joe Spallina on the Lacrosse Network podcasts, one of the Lacrosse Network podcasts, talk about how he knows some of the burner accounts, who they belong to, that have been talking bad against Joey, and he knows that both of them are former players or current players.
Oh, yeah.
He's waiting to expose them. And remember, Joe Spallina is now in a position of power, being the general manager of the California Redwoods.
Right.
So it is going to be very, very fun to see Joe Spallina go all Long Island Italian boss in the near future.
I sold him a jacket one time. That's my claim to fame.
I didn't realize Hiltz was sitting on 41 too.
Yeah, I mean,
He's having a good year.
It was great for Hiltz and Spallina last week when they both scored and where they both scored their 200th career point on the same play against Colgate.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yes. And then this week, just barely escaping at Virginia after a dreadful start to the game for Syracuse, down to Virginia at 1.51, storming all the way back and scoring the final 3 goals of the game in order to win at Virginia, which was very, very important for Syracuse to do. Steve's second favorite player on the team, Jimmy McCool, with 17 saves.
Great name.
Yes.
All name team. Jimmy McCool, making 17 saves. Honorary Nunes Magician member Matthew Nunes, the goalkeeper for UVA, made 16 saves as well, not to be outdone. The unfortunate thing for Syracuse is you go against Notre Dame next week, and Notre Dame probably has the best defense out of everyone remaining that they're facing. So you're going to have to score against Notre Dame. Right.
Should be a good one.
Should be a good one at the Dome. That one is also going to be the 3 remaining games against the ACC are going to be aired on the ACC network, like actual ACC network, not streaming only. So that will be for a TV audience, those 3 games against the ACC opponents. Not sure where this Cornell game is actually being aired, which will be something we'll figure out all in the meantime.
Wow. Syracuse has not beat Notre Dame since 2018.
Huh.
This is a very, very good stretch for Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that long.
You know what? Here's something we're going to think about, because we were talking earlier about the all points leaders and Kirst and all that. Right now, Joey Spallina is sitting on 211 total points. The current Syracuse leader all time in points is we'll put an asterisk on it, because for playing his entire career at Syracuse is Mikey Powell with 307. Do we think he touches that?
Say again what Mikey's points are?
Mikey was at 307. The other 2 Powell brothers were at 287. Casey and Ryan both had 287. Technically, Tim Nelson had 320, but he also played at NC State for a year. So that was...
and you said Spallina's at 2...
Spallina is currently at 211 with 4 games left, at least 5 games left to go this year.
It's going to be close. I think he'll get to 300.
Yeah, I think he ends in second place there.
Yes.
So above the 2 of the 3 Powells and under Mike.
Yes.
It would be something if he also ended at 287, wouldn't it?
That'd be really, really fun.
Weird ceiling for modern Syracuse play.
Very specific ceiling.
That would be incredibly funny. To The mark of a great Syracuse player.
287 points exactly.
287 points.
Who needs 22 when you have 287?
Yeah. The thing with Spolina,
all the 22s had 287.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. The thing with Spolina is that he's so balanced goal and scoring wise, and assist wise right now that it's going to be tough for him to like lead any of the individual categories in terms of goals and assists as well. Like it's going to be a mountain for him to try and get to Tim Nelson's 187 career assist mark.
Yeah,
that the leader is, and unless Spolina becomes just a goal scoring merchant, he's not touching Gary's 192 career goals.
No. Right, and Nelson career wise was 221.
That's
so nuts. That also his freshman year at NC State, he had a boatload. And
again, to toot my own ship and ride my own agenda. Gary 192 career goals. CJ Kirst 205.
I mean, there were other options on Gary's teams, though.
This fine. You act like Ryan Goldstein and Michael Long aren't other options as well.
There are plenty of options, but when you have Kirst, there's no other option.
Good point.
He is that good. It's just like holy shit. I didn't realize the all-time points leader, Chris Gray, Boston University,
401.
401. I mean, also a Thompson brother at 400.
Yes.
So Lyle had 400 from 2012 to 2015. I knew he was high. I did not know he was the all-time leader until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's mildly crazy.
400. That's
all these numbers are nuts. Like thinking about it, like if Mike Powell, for all Mike Powell did at Syracuse, is at 307, and the all-time leaders at 401. It's just wow.
Points per game record, by the way, 6.47 for a Siena guy in the late 70s.
Yeah. You got to remember also for Syracuse, if John Desko just decided to take on one more Thompson brother, they could have had the Thompsons.
Which would have been mildly nuts around that. I mean, that would have changed that era. I mean,
that era of Syracuse lacrosse.
Desko is still here.
Yeah,
probably. Because the thing you're putting a couple maybe of Dylan Donahue, Ryan Stott, and Kevin Rice into the midfield.
Yeah,
that team's unbeatable.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
and like there were some good teams in that era for Syracuse that just couldn't get it done. But
yeah, if the Thompsons are on that team, Steve doesn't witness Syracuse losing to Duke in 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
But things change. But things happen for a reason, and maybe because that happened, Steve didn't learn lacrosse as much, and that's why I needed to help him and Andy learn lacrosse in 2020.
It's all a big, wide, interconnected web of Syracuse weirdness.
Indeed. Quick hit on the women's side. Remember, it doesn't get easier for them either because they play a midweek game at Yale, who is the best team in the Ivy, or one of the best teams in the Ivy right now, and in the top 10. Then staying on the road. They don't play a home game at the Dome anymore, by the way. Again, they go to Yale, to Cal, to Virginia Tech before hosting Boston College, where you might ask. Yeah, and Mike, it's not being held at CNS. It's being held at CBA.
It's a home game. It's close enough.
It's close enough.
I mean,
I didn't realize Cal had women's lacrosse. That's a brutal road trip.
Yeah. Remember, Syracuse has to go to Yale first on Wednesday before traveling up to California to play Cal on Saturday.
Right.
Okay, Stanford has a team too, but
Stanford has a very good team.
Yeah,
Stanford
right. Yes.
Stanford nearly beat Syracuse in the Dome earlier this year.
Yeah, 14-13. Yeah, what do they go to New Haven and then just go to Logan and hop on a plane to Cal?
You would hope so.
Like
there's probably not a New Haven to Berkeley direct flight yet.
No, what makes you say?
Unless they're flying Allegiant.
Oh, they got the Breeze Airways direct out.
Indeed.
And then back to Vatek, like what? What
yeah,
is the schedule?
at least they get a week in between the Cal and Virginia Tech
Yeah,
road trip.
that's crazy.
And that CBA game's on a Thursday, by the way. It's a Thursday night sickos game.
Yeah, that's something.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
indeed.
That's a note to end it on.
That is indeed a note to end it on. Thank you, as always, guys, for listening to the Disloyal Idiots podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network. If you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube, where usually do these Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern, it'll be a little bit less frequent during the off season, which is rapidly approaching. Sad times. But you can still tune in then. If you're listening on your podcast platform of choice, thank you, as always, for listening. Leave a rating, a like, review, subscription, follow. Leave a comment so that we can trick the algorithm into expanding the Ottoman Empire. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for Steve and the out of the country Andy, I'm Christian. And you know what we always say? Go Orange.
Go Orange.
Orange.